Sugar, obviously we've spoken a lot about certain topics, about Tyson, about Usyk AJ2, obviously Ben, but one of the purposes behind this interview was I wanted to try and kind of get more of a knowledge behind you, behind your route into the sport, your upbringing in and around boxing, and to kind of go through a different route. So, you said earlier you're tired of talking about Tyson, so we don't need to talk about Tyson. We'll touch on him a little bit later on, but the majority of this is more so about kind of your grounding, your knowledge, and people who you've worked with. So just kind of take me back, Sugar, to your early days within the sport, your earliest memories of boxing.
My earliest memory of boxing was going to the gym with my uncle, Emanuel Steward, in Detroit, being over his house on maybe a weekend or something. I don't know what day it was actually, but it had to have been during the week, obviously. But I'm thinking it's a weekend. But being over his house and playing with my cousins and my sister and my aunt Marie asking me, which is Emmanuel's wife, asking me, "You want to go to the gym with your uncle?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And basically because I knew it was a bunch of boys around there, and that's who he trained, and I wanted to be a part of what he was doing. And going to that gym and being down in that hot place, and actually I thought I was beating up all those guys. I didn't know they were letting me. When they was punching, I was punching on their leg or their hand, and they said hit the hand, and I'm punching, and I wouldn't stop. And they were like, "Man, you're real good. You're so fast." And I'm like, as a kid, like what, 3, 4, 5 years old, I'm listening to them like yeah, I am, But reality set in. I wasn't none of that. No, I'm joking. Uh, yeah, those are my earliest memories. Also going out of town to some of those fight trips when Milton McCory and those timing those guys were amateurs. Going to some of those tournaments, riding in the car, having to stay in the same hotel room, being in a hotel room where it was like 2, 4, 6, 8, about 8 of us in one room. Sleeping on the floor, taking the double beds apart. Instead of having 2 beds, you got 4 beds now, and then making another bed on this over there by the window, like this area here, and putting the top covers to make a bed for that for that bed right there, and that's mostly where I step. I would be there with Stevie McCory, Milton McCory's younger brother, 1984 gold medal winner.
Sugar, obviously your family's got a deep history within the sport. So listening to you there, was boxing just something you always loved? Was you just brought up on it, or was your family kind of maybe pushing you towards the sport?
My family never pushed me towards boxing. I was able to do anything I wanted to do. I played all other sports, and boxing is just something that I came back to. It was always something, one of the sports that I knew from the beginning, but not always being around it. Uh, I didn't live with Emmanuel when I was a young boy. I lived with my mother and mother, father, but going out of town, Emmanuel was, he had his own life, and he was going out of town with his fighters and bringing those guys to be world champions. So we didn't spend much time together uh, through those days, through those years. It was just something that I knew what was going on, and listening to the talks of my grandmother and my great grandmother, and the family, just looking up and being proud of Emmanuel and the success that he was having. So for me as a young boy, and Emmanuel being an adult male and someone to look up to, that's who it was for me.
What was Emmanuel's influence on yourself, and when that time came when you was able to spend more time around him, more time in that famous Kronk gym?
His influence on me was pretty much everything. I was the male father figure in my life. That's who I looked at. That's who I watched. I watched cook, watched run up the stairs, watched eat. Watched drive. So me, I'm looking at all those things like I'm gonna drive like that. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do like him. And I guess I've done good so far watching him. So I don't do anything too much different than what he did in boxing as far as teaching and training and giving people respect in the sport and just understanding it and having my knowledge and my input to be able to see things maybe other people don't see.
What was Emmanuel's kind of best, I don't want to say attribute, but what made him such a unique trainer? What made him so special that separated him from the rest?
I believe what made him special was that he was 5'9", about 175 pounds, just like me. Yeah, so as times growing up, I wore his clothes. You know, he would give me some of his clothes, but then when he'd go out of town, I would go into his closet and take some of his clothes to wear, and then take them to the cleaners and put them back before he got back in town if he was gone for a few months, just so I can go out somewhere nice. I didn't have any nice clothes to wear, so I would just leisurely and nicely borrow his clothes without him knowing, and I'd be the sharpest guy in the place.
What was he like away from the gym?
He was the same in the gym or away. It wasn't really a difference. In Emmanuel. He he was the same inside and outside. So he laughed and joked inside the gym, had fun, but was always about business. So it's the same way outside. You know, laughing and joking and relaxing, but always knew how to take care of business when it was time to. It's like hitting that switch like Ben Whitaker can do.
When you hit the point in your life when you started maybe going to the gym a little bit more, you was obviously in and around helping Emmanuel. At the beginning of that journey, was there ever a point when you maybe became a little starstruck at some of the fighters who may have been in the gym who was working with your uncle?
Not ever a chance. It was just those guys being starstruck. Those were like brothers, like older brothers. So it was no starstruck. Before they were even famous or anything like that, I've known those guys. So I don't see what, for me, I wouldn't see that's how I'd be starstruck about that. And also just being around him. I mean, that was my uncle before he was some kind of big time Hall of Fame trainer, manager, one of the greats. That's just my uncle.
What was the greatest piece of advice that Emmanuel gave you?
As long as you know what you're dealing with.
I remember seeing Naz at one of the fight hotels this week, and obviously I know Emmanuel worked with him for the Barrera fight. Um, do you ever remember Naz being around in the gym? Was you there at that point?
I was there in the gym. I don't remember it so clear because I was still working. I was a full-time Detroit police officer at that time. So at the time they were going to the gym, unfortunately, this guy here had to work. So I wasn't able to see it in the gym day to day. But after the gym, coming back to the house, yes, Naseem was around at that time, at some of those points, and we've had some time together. We've shared a couple of friendly games in pool that have not been fully finished, but yeah, it's tied 1-1. So whenever he's around and he wants to finish that last game, so that I can, you know, for sure let him know that I am better than him, then we could finish that. We never got to finish that game. Emmanuel saved you. He had to go.
You mentioned obviously being a police officer in Detroit. What was that like? Just talks about that entire experience of being a police officer in Detroit.
You know what? Being a police officer, I don't really remember things like maybe a lot of other police officers remember. It was just my job. I did my job, and it was nothing that I grew up wanting to be or wanting to do. It was just an opportunity for me to do something positive, and I'm happy in me taking that route and helping me to understand people a lot better, being involved in different situations, being on the job, seeing different households, different cultures, different ways people grew up. It taught me a lot, and I wouldn't change, that experience in my life. It's helped me so much in this experience in my life.
Did you always believe no matter what you was doing, you would have ended up in boxing then? Obviously, when you go back to being a police officer, did you always think that there was a route into the sport for you?
I don't want to say that. I wanted to be a professional football player or a baseball player, one of those two. I also wanted to rap, be a big rap star. Um, Took my recording studio equipment back to the store and bought me a car, bought me a truck, a Jeep, a 1998 Jeep Cherokee. Um, and then I started training fighters. I bought a Jeep so I can pick kids up, load them in the back or load bags in the back and travel a lot. So that was my choice to turn in my rap career for boxing.
Just on kind of a Jeep Cherokee front then, Sugar, you come across as a man who has very little kind of expensive things within your life, but I feel like you have a passion for cars. Would I be wrong in
I'm
suggesting
from the
that?
Motor City, man.
So,
From the Motor City, baby. We make cars, fast cars, muscle cars, classic cars. I mean, all of that. We have a big a big show every August. I believe it's like August the 18th, second or third week in August. It's called the Woodward Dream Cruise, and it's people come, millions of people come every year to this event, where it's like a big cruise up and down Woodward Avenue, which is one of the main avenues in the Detroit area, stretching all the way to, I believe it's Woodward, Chicago, as Woodward Avenue goes. It was one of the main highways when Detroit first, when it was founded. Like that was one of the main streets leading out of Detroit all the way to downtown to the river, to Canada, pretty much. So yeah, they have a big show every year, which is that week. But then the weekend is everybody's out there cruising. You should take a look at that, the Woodward Dream Cruise. Any car you can imagine. They come from over here. They come from Saudi. They come from England. They come from everywhere, bringing their cars to that show just to cruise around.
If we come out, Sugar, you're gonna take us on a tour then? You're gonna let
As
us come
long as
with
I'm
you?
not working, yeah, I would love to go back. I haven't been back in about 5 years. I got a couple of cars I want to put out in the show. I won't be driving them like that. What you do is you get there and get you a nice parking spot, and you just park. You sit there, barbecue. You watch all the other cars go by. You can take it out for a spin, but you have to have somebody there to hold your spot for you. So when you come back, which might take about 4 hours, because it's that packed, and you come back, you sit and you watch other cars and socialize and meet new people. People asking about your car, what engine, and maybe you'll find out meet somebody who has some parts for your car, or maybe buy a car from someone else. There's just so much that goes on at that during that time, during that week.
Sugar, obviously, just moving rather back over into the boxing side of things, and your beginning into the sport and working alongside Emmanuel. For you, what made him as a trainer just so special? I know we touched on it earlier, but what stood out for you that you felt you could learn from him?
What stood out for me and to learn from him was teach the basics. That's what he taught me. He didn't teach me much. To be fair, hand on hand to hand, like just he didn't teach me much. And it's always funny. He would always tell that story that he only spent 5 minutes with me teaching me boxing, and that was it. And that's all it really was. He was going to training camp with to train Lennox Lewis and Oscar De La Hoya, and he was dressed in a suit going out the front door. And I said, Uncle Manuel, I want to train fighters. Can you show me I need to know what to do. And he's like, put them in their basic stance, make sure the hands are in the right position, the feet in the right position, a good balance, teach them how to throw the correct jab on the knuckles, right hand. He said, I got to go. And he left. And when he came back, I had fighters fighting.
So, what did you do to study to begin to build your own knowledge within the sport
Listen,
then?
when he told me that, when he left, I was a bit mad. I was like, I already know that. I thought he was going to teach me something new that I didn't know. But I did know the basics. But it was just him showing it to me and saying, no, this is it. And then I remember a few years later coming back and saying, Uncle Manuel, I'm ready. Like, teach me some more. And he was like, your guys, they winning, right? You got amateur team, successful. They go on to tournaments. You got national champions and all of that. I said, yeah. He said, that's it, brother. And I was like, man, it's got to be some more. Naturally, I guess him being so smart, he knew me. I got mad. He just went and gym trained more on the basics. So yeah, pretty much that was it. That's what I took from him, and that's all I've been doing was the same thing. Just teaching the basics. But at the same time, you have to understand your fighters. Uh, if you think about it, it's like they're like your kids, and if you've got 5 kids, you got a family, and you got 5 kids. You need to know each one of your kids. It ain't just like that. You got to treat them all the same. You should know each one of those kids, knowing that they're different. And I believe that makes a big impact on training, just knowing that person and that person knowing you.
You've obviously carried that Kronk style throughout your career, and you implore your fighters to carry that as well. So, aside from the little and brief bits of knowledge that Emmanuel gave to you, what did you do to kind of enhance that?
I don't think I did much. It's the same thing that was going on in the 70s and 80s at Kronk. The guys are just winning. They had just this certain passion, a certain attitude just for a knockout. Um, I don't know if what's for me. It's like the attitude that I have and what I was taught and raised around is like you got 2 fighters in the ring. and you've got a judge. I mean, a referee, right? And then you got 3 judges on the outside. Well, those 2 fighters are put into the ring to settle something, settle who's the best, right? Well, if they can't settle it in the amount of time, then what do you have? You got the judges to decide. Why not take care of it yourself? That's the attitude.
When did you last see or speak to Emmanuel?
I don't know about all that.
Do you remember the last thing that he said to you?
Of course I do.
Is that just personal between you guys? Or?
No, it's not personal. He said, just keep winning. That was it.
That's obviously a nice note to remember on. Moving forwards, I just want to get your thoughts on your time working with certain fighters. Adonis Stevenson, how hard did he punch with that left hand?
I don't know. I've never been hit with his left hand. I've been hit by, I'm not supposed to say his name really, but we're not going to talk about him, but I've been hit with Tyson Fury's right hand. And I stood up to that. After he hit me with his right hand, I chased him around the ring. So I'm not sure about Adonis Stevenson. I wasn't ever hit with his left hand to know how hard he punches. But he punched pretty hard.
When you have a fighter like Adonis who has such a powerful weapon with him that he's grown through and he's been able to use within the sport, how does that change you as what you're trying to teach him as a trainer and working around that?
Well, it doesn't really matter, but for Adonis and any fighter, I'm just going to train them to land the harder punches. So it's always a way to get to it. There's always an opening on somebody, no matter what. When you throw a punch, you're open. That's why when some people get hurt from a shot, they don't throw any punches. They're covering up because they know if they open up and try to throw something, something's open for them to get hit. So it's just a way of trying to figure that part out, which I really can't go into details about that, but there is a way to figure it out and to know what's open when somebody throws something. It's almost similar to a dance. Yeah, it's like a dance. Or it's ludicrous when you move, I move, just like that. Yeah. You just got to know how to move. You got to be able to see it and be prepared for it and to execute. So it's a lot of training. Some training is blindfolded. I know people laughed about, everybody was laughing at Tyson for saying that we train blindfolded. But yeah, we do. Train with our eyes closed, blindfolded sometimes.
Sugar, the loss for Adonis to Gvozdyk, how did that affect you because of a health scare that had happened after the fight?
It was very emotional for me because Adonis was like a younger brother to me. And for me, I feel like I'm responsible for that fight. I'm responsible for every fighter that I train or that fighter that I go into the ring with. That's supposed to be part of my job as a trainer, is his safety. So I'm supposed to be able to teach him how to protect himself the proper way and to do all the right things so that he doesn't get hurt. So for me, it was emotional. I'm very happy that Adonis is doing well and he's making progress every day. And you could see his, him getting around a little bit more each time. And for me, it's very happy. It was, like I said, it was a sad time for me, and things are better now.
Because of what you had gone through with that fight, did it ever maybe make you question whether you wanted to continue in the sport because you saw someone so dear to you go through what he has been through?
Nah, I didn't get that down. I didn't go into anything like a depression or anything. It bothered me dearly. I don't even know if that's a part of me that's going into depression because everyone's different, but everyone handles things differently. So for me, I spent some time to myself, and then I knew I had to get back in there. It's something that I love, and thinking over everything, like it was nothing that could have been done in that situation. It's just something that just happened. It's like driving a car and you're going down the main street and somebody comes off the side street and hits you. Or you're gonna never drive again because you got sideswiped, T-boned. It was something that just happened.
Sugar, Andi Lee, how happy were you to see him become a world champion under the guidance of Adam Booth, obviously given his past relationship with Emmanuel?
I was happy for Andy to be a champion, period. It doesn't matter who he was with. So I know you mentioned Adam Booth, but he could have been with you. It didn't matter to me as long as he's a world champion, because Andy is like a brother to me. We spent 7 years living together in the same house. So yeah, for him to be successful, I'm very happy with that. The same as he would be successful with me, having the world champions without him being the world champion that I'm training. So we both know each other, we understand each other, and we both want the best for each other. And there it is.
Listening to you talk, Sugar, it seems like it's very important for you to try to create a family environment with all of your fighters or all of the people who are in and around the gym. How much do you feel that influences you as a trainer to be able to have that close bond with everyone you work with?
I think it just it keeps me balanced, being around so many different people and having them close and me being close to them. That way, I know if I get put out of my house, then I know I got somewhere to go. I've got family everywhere in the world. So yeah, yeah, it's just having those ties and good relationship with people is always something good. I enjoy being around people, and the people that I'm around enjoy being around people.
Sugar, I just want to touch on the evolution of the heavyweight division as well. So you look at Lennox, Vladimir, now you've got Tyson, three completely different fighters. But for you, are you surprised at just seeing how it's all evolved over the years?
For me, the heavyweight division has evolved, and for me, witnessing it is great. I've had conversations with Emanuel about the heavyweight division, and just seeing it happening now, from things that he discussed with me and things that I listened to him about, it's like ah, this man was on point.
I remember speaking to you off camera in Bournemouth, and you said to us if there was one thing that yourself and Emmanuel wanted to do, it was to have had one fight. You obviously training one fighter, him training one fighter, and to have gone up against each other. If you could have chosen two fighters, one that he was training, one that you've trained, who would they have been and why?
I don't know if I would have chosen. I would have let him choose.
You've got to come on, you answer the question for me, Sugar.
Honestly, I never thought about it, but I would. And you asking me, only thing I could think about is because of the way I feel about myself and the way I was raised to feel about myself. I let him choose. Doesn't matter who chooses. Why would I choose and gain the upper hand? I would feel like I would still have the best chance, no matter who picked who.
If there was a heavyweight in history event that you could have trained, Sugar, who would it
It
have
could
been?
be Emmanuel training a heavyweight and I'm training a lightweight.
No, but if they're going to share a ring, you're not going to put in a heavyweight and a lightweight.
I'm just
I mean, you
being
might have
stupid,
fancied
but
your
that's
chances
just,
still,
I
but
mean, naturally, naturally, I'm a kind of person that want to push myself as far as I can, So obviously, I'm sure that wouldn't work, but then I would have to actually step, to the same level, But heck, you don't know if you don't try sometimes.
Sugar, if there was one heavyweight in history you could have worked with, who would it have been and why?
I worked with him. It was Tyson Fury. That's the one. I mean, you can say before Tyson Fury, then there was other fighters that maybe I possibly said, dang, it'd be nice to work with him. But the question is being asked right now, so that answer is Tyson Fury.
I know it's always difficult to say, but how do you feel Tyson would have done in an earlier era of the sport when you go back to the 70s and the 80s?
You mean when they were smaller guys like that?
You said it.
You know what? That's a good question. I wouldn't even have any clue to answer for that one. How would he have done? I think he would just fare well, just as he's doing now. So I guess me saying just as he's doing now would mean, yeah.
Who do you look at now in the heavyweight division and think they're next in line to be the king of the heavyweights?
Oh, that division is evolving so much. You've got so much great talent coming up. I don't really even want to mention names because I don't want to leave somebody out. Maybe because you put me on the spot and I'm getting nervous now. And if I leave somebody out, then that big heavyweight's going to be looking for me. But there's a lot of talent out there. If you could name a few, then I could be better to not forget anybody, and that would be on you. And they can come look for you.
Oh, I don't want to have to deal with that, Sugar. Before obviously we let you go, so obviously a few things to touch on.
But honestly, the heavyweight division is flourishing. So there's a lot of young talent out there, and you guys know who you are. I know who you are, but I'm just not the best with the names just to sit here and name off all 20. I think it's 23 of you. So yeah.
Jared Anderson obviously spent a lot of time in and around Tyson. You've seen him sparring him as well. You've got the younger likes of, I say younger father, Daniel Dubois over here in the UK, amongst others. But Jared Anderson in particular, somebody you've seen in and around Tyson. How far do you feel he can go in the sport?
I believe Jared Anderson can go all the way.
What stood out for you seeing him work in the gym?
He reminded me of a younger Tyson Fury. Just that drive in the gym, and that stood out to me in Tyson. His drive, his energy, the way he trained, how much he enjoyed it. That's something special when you could see something like that, you know.
Just kind of one final one to end on. You mentioned Joseph Parker. He's getting ready for a massive fight with Joyce. Your thoughts on that one?
Um, each person has to do their job. So, Parker's he's got good speed and fundamentals, and Joyce is a big walking building. That's tough to get down. So yeah, it's a very interesting fight. I think those two styles make for a great fight to watch. It's something that I do want to see, and I don't watch all boxing, but it's something that I would like to see. Having a relationship with Joseph Parker as well, but wanting to see him succeed, and at the same time wanting to see what this one of these young up and coming heavyweights is going to do with the veteran, because these are the roads that they have to cross in order to make it to be a champion.
We know you like knockouts. Is that one which ends with a
I
knockout?
sure hope so. I don't want to be there all night. I'd like to go out and have me a nice beer or something, or a little shot of whiskey or tequila or something after. I don't want the bars or anything to be closed. Can't get nothing after the fight because it's taken all day.